Hi, my name is Janise, and I want to tell you a story about a magical place called Sandy Ground. Do you know what makes Sandy Ground so magical? Well, maybe after I read this book, you will. The book is called The Summer Adventures of Landin Henry, and I am the author. Do you know what an author is? That's a person who writes books. I wrote this book. So let's take a look inside. The Summer Adventures of Landin Henry, Sandy Ground. Hello everybody, my name is Landin Henry. I am 8 years old and live with my mom, dad, and little sister Elizabeth on Staten Island, a small town in New York City. I've always had a big imagination. I daydream a lot, and sometimes my daydreams feel real. There was that time when I imagined I was an astronaut planting a flag on the moon. Another time, I was climbing to the top of Mount Everest. That's the highest mountain in the world. When I daydream, I'm always traveling to faraway places. In my head, I'm riding on the back of a camel through the desert in Egypt to visit the pyramids. But last summer was very different. I know that this is going to sound crazy, but I didn't just daydream about going to these fun places all around the world. I really traveled back in time. It wasn't my imagination. Not this time. It really wasn't. Let's look back at my summer, when it all started. It was the last day of school. Class, your summer assignment is to learn about your ancestors, stated Miss Lee. What are ancestors? Georgiana asked. All of the relatives that were born before your grandparents, Mrs. Lee replied. I had to think about what I knew about my ancestors. I realized that I didn't know much about my family. My friends Susan, Howard, and Emily all knew something about their family history. I would have to ask Mom and Dad. Mom was waiting for me after school. All I could think about was how much fun I would have this summer and the assignment Mrs. Lee gave to the class. What did you learn today, Landin? Mom asked. Not much. We just got our summer assignment, I said. I have to learn about my ancestors, all the people that were born before my grandparents. After a quick snack, Mom and I sat down to talk about the summer. For the first time, I was going alone to stay with my grandparents. Mom gave me some simple rules to follow. 1, listen to your grandparents. 2, help around the house. And 3, have fun. Mom and Dad thought it would be a good idea to complete my summer assignment with my grandparents. The next day, Dad and I packed up the car and we all headed down to my grandparents' house in New Jersey. An hour later, we arrived at my grandparents' home. They were both standing outside when we got there. It was unusual to see Grandpa standing outside, since he never leaves his bedroom. It was so good to see them. Grandma is a great cook. I love her cooking. For lunch, she prepared Dad's favorite seafood dish, oysters. I think oysters are disgusting and gross looking, but Dad could never get enough of Grandma's famous recipes. I heard someone calling me from the other end of the house. Landin! It was Grandma. When I reached her office, she was holding an old photo album. Your mother told me about your school assignment, Grandma said. I think I would be able to help you. Our family helped to establish the first free Black community in Staten Island, New York. It was called Sandyground. In the early 1820s and 1830s, our family moved from Maryland to Staten Island for better jobs and opportunities. Our ancestor, John Jackson, was the captain of his own ship. He was the first recorded Black man to buy land on Staten Island. Not only did I have a captain in our family, we had teachers, oyster men, and even an opera singer. Grandma told me more about Sandyground and all of my ancestors. I think I had enough information to start my assignment. It had been a long day, and Mom and Dad and Elizabeth had to get on the road to return home. We waved our goodbyes while we watched my family drive away into the sunset. I waved until my arms got tired. Grandma tucked me in that night and told me more stories about our history. I listened to the sound of her voice until I fell asleep. My summer adventures of traveling back in time began while I was sleeping. When I woke up, I was standing in the middle of a dirt road, confused. At first, I thought I was dreaming. There were people dressed in funny clothes all around me. When the strong smell of horses and salt water hit my nose, I knew it was real. Where am I? I screamed at the top of my lungs. Quiet down now, boy. Don't be silly. You're in Sandyground, said a woman in a black dress. Did you hit your head or something? She asked. Your grandmother is waiting for you. Take these oysters to your grandmother over yonder. As I turned around, I saw an old man handing me a big bucket of slimy oysters. He pointed to a woman standing near an old house who was waving. He said to me, Grandma Frances is waiting for you. Since I didn't want to be rude, I grabbed the bucket and started walking towards Grandma Frances. As I got closer to her, I realized she looked just like my own grandmother. She commanded, Come on with my oysters, boy. You're moving slow as molasses. John, how are you? Have you finished working on the ship for today? Grandma Frances asked. Yes, I have. I always love to see my sister, John replied. Being the captain of a ship is no easy task, but having some of those oysters you make will make it all better, John said. At that moment, it finally clicked in my head. Sandyground, Captain John, and Grandma Frances. These are my ancestors. I traveled back in time to the 1830s. Though I finally understood, I didn't know how I got there. When a group of children asked if they could play with their cousin, I realized they were talking about me. The rest of the day, I spent by the water, helping the oystermen harvest and eating fish and strawberries from my aunt's garden. We had oysters for dinner. I tried not to eat them, but Grandma Frances made it clear that I had no other choice. It turned out I really liked the oysters. It wasn't so bad, after all. Everything was so delicious. So I had a second helping of dinner. After eating so much, I ended up falling asleep at the table. Grandma Frances, with all of her strength, picked me up and carried me into a small bedroom with an itchy feather bed. My full belly made me so sleepy that even that itchy bed felt like heaven. I remember as I drifted off to sleep, Grandma Frances' soft voice saying, "Good night, sweetie." The next morning I heard, "Wake up, Landin." I jumped out of bed excited about the new adventures I would have in Sandyground. But when I looked around the room, I was back in New Jersey at my grandparents' house. The voice I heard calling me was my own grandma. Grandma, I went to Sandy Ground and met my ancestors, I exclaimed. You won't believe it, I said. Grandma gave me a smirk and replied, oh, I won't? Now come over here and sit on my lap and tell me about your adventure. The adventure taught me so much about myself and my ancestors. I had fun without the television or the computer, and my family history is awesome. The rest of the morning was spent telling Grandma everything I experienced in Sandy Ground. That was some dream you had, Grandma said. But it wasn't a dream, Grandma. It really happened, I pleaded. Shh. I know that Landin wasn't dreaming. I wanted him to really meet his family and to know how important it is to learn his history. Just wait and see the other summer adventures I have planned for Landin. Watch out for more adventures of Landin Henry as he learns more about his ancestors. And that is the summer adventure of Landin Henry, Sandy Ground. Now that you know all about Landin Henry's adventures and Sandy Ground and Captain Jack, I can tell you that Captain Jack had a boat, and it was called a slope. A slope was a type of sailboat. The bottom of the boat is called a hull. Then there's this pole that sticks up called a mast that holds the two sails that help direct and guide the boat. One sail is a jib, the other one is the mainsail. That is the type of boat Captain Jack had. So today, we're going to do arts and crafts, and we're going to make our own sailboats. So for that, you're going to need some supplies. You're going to need a paper plate, a craft stick, a toilet paper roll, a small piece of paper, crayons or markers or paint, glue or glue stick, scissors, a stapler, and stickers to decorate. So let's start. First you're going to take your paper plate, small paper plate, and fold it in half. Once you fold it in half, you're going to cut at the crease. You're going to use the scissors to cut. Once you cut at the crease, you'll have two identical pieces of plate. You're going to put them one on top of each other, and you're going to cut out the curve on the bottom of the plate. Once you cut it out, it will look like this. Okay? After that, you're going to turn the plates face to face. You're going to staple all four corners. It's going to look like that. After that, you're going to decorate. You can paint, you can color, whatever you like. This is going to be the hull of your sailboat. After that, we're going to make the sail. You're going to take a piece of paper about the size of my hand, and you're going to fold it over from right to left. There's going to be a small piece down here. We're going to use the scissors to cut that off. And once you cut it off, it'll look like this. Then you'll take your piece of paper right here. You're going to take the glue. You're going to put glue here, and about halfway, you're going to place that craft stick down. That's going to be glued to the paper. Then you're going to put glue on top of the stick, and then you're going to cross it over. You see how the sail is pointed to the right? So once that's been glued, it'll look something like this. This stick will be a little longer. I have a small stick, but it should be a little longer than that. Once you finish that, you're going to color and paint your sail. Okay? Once you have colored and painted your sail, you're going to take your toilet paper roll. You're going to put a little hole in it, just a small one. You're going to take your sail and you're going to put it inside the toilet paper roll. Once you finish that, you're going to take your hole. You're going to place that toilet paper roll inside that hole. Then you'll have a sailboat. I hope you enjoyed your arts and crafts activity. Have a good day. I'll see you soon.